Hello everyone, we'll start Pediatric Oncology. We'll start with leukemia. In order to understand leukemia, we have to go to the basics. The pathophysiology of leukemia starts in the bone marrow. In the bone marrow, we have hematopoietic stem cells, and this will differentiate to myeloid blast and lymphoid blast. Lymphoid blast will give you premature T cells and B cells, which is pre-B cells, and this will differentiate to mature B cells and eventually to plasma cells. And the pre-T cells will mature in the thymus and will give you T cells. Myeloid blast will differentiate to large megakaryocytes, and megakaryocyte will differentiate to small platelets. Myeloid blast also will differentiate to erythroblast and eventually will give you erythrocyte or red blood cells. Will differentiate also to white blood cells, and white blood cells will include monocytes and will differentiate to macrophages, and will include also neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Leukemia means the disruption of this process of differentiation and the accumulation of blast cells in the bone marrow. Accumulation of blast cells in the bone marrow abnormally will replace the normal hematopoietic cells, and this will disrupt the normal production and differentiation of platelets, and this will cause thrombocytopenia, petechiae, ecchymosis, epistaxis. This will cause anemia, neutropenia, or neutrophilia. Regardless, this can be either because of lymphoid blast or myeloid blast. If it's myeloid blast, it will be acute myeloid leukemia. If it's lymphoid blast, it will be acute lymphoblastic leukemia. This is a 7-year-old boy with persistent low-grade fever for 6 days. Tmax is 100.8 Fahrenheit. Has no other symptoms except mild fatigue and is sleeping more than usual. Physical examination is normal except for mild mucosal pallor. Screening labs due to a persistent fever lasting more than 5 days were ordered. His CBC was significant with a hemoglobin of 7 grams per deciliter. His hematocrit was 23%. His white blood cells were 30,000 cells per cubic milliliters. His platelet count was 27,000. A peripheral smear was positive for blast cells. What is the best next step? Bone marrow biopsy, reassurance, CSF analysis, bone scan, or IVIG for possible Kawasaki? Correct answer is bone marrow biopsy. Why? Because this is a case of leukemia. The keywords here is persistent fever. Even it was low grade, this is actually a real case, and the child is having anemia and high white blood cell count. So leukemia can present with high or low white blood cell count and low platelet. Low platelet always abnormal and has to be taken seriously. Also, you can see blast cells in the peripheral smear. Even if you don't see it, still the best next step is bone marrow biopsy. This is very likely a case of leukemia. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. This is the most common type of leukemia in children. Actually, it accounts between 25 to 30% of all childhood cancer. The peak age between 2 and 5 years. Associated syndrome or the syndromes will make the risk higher for acute lymphoblastic leukemia: Down syndrome, Fanconi anemia, Diamond-Blackfan anemia, Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, ataxia telangiectasia, Li-Fraumeni syndrome. This is a peripheral smear for a child with lymphoblastic leukemia. How would you know the blast cells? Blast cells are large and blue color. The blue color is the large nucleus, and this slight clear color is the scant cytoplasm. Large nucleus with scant cytoplasm. Very large cells. Compare that to the size of the red blood cells, much larger. So lots of large blue cells with large nucleus and scant cytoplasm and occasional nuclei. These are blast cells. How would you know this lymphoblast and not myeloblast? By doing TDT test. Will be positive in cases of lymphoblastic leukemia. Prognosis of acute lymphoblastic leukemia is important and is a high yield. Good prognosis, the age. Age is critical. If the age is more than 1 year and less than 10, this is associated with an excellent prognosis. Poor prognosis if the age is less than 1 and more than 10. If initial white blood cells less than 50,000, this is good. If it's more than 50,000, this is bad. Premature B cells associated with good prognosis, bad prognosis T cells, or mature B cell phenotype. Trisomy 4, 10, 17, translocation 12, 21. This is a good prognosis. Bad prognosis, Philadelphia chromosome translocation 9, 22 and translocation 4, 11. Rapid response to therapy is an excellent prognosis. A slow response to therapy is a poor prognosis. Minimal residual disease measures the burden of leukemic cells in the bone marrow. If it's low, this is good. If it's high, this is bad. The common side effects of chemotherapeutic agents: cyclophosphamide, hemorrhagic cystitis, and blood in urine; bleomycin, pulmonary fibrosis. Remember, bleomycin blew out the lung; cisplatin, hearing loss; doxorubicin, very high yield, commonly tested, cardiac toxicity, heart failure, pericarditis, myocarditis, arrhythmia; carboplatin, peripheral neuropathy; vincristine, vinblastine, peripheral neuropathy; methotrexate, myelosuppression, mucositis; fluorouracil, myelosuppression; mercaptopurine, myelosuppression. 2-year-old male presents to the clinic with his parents, who report that he has been more fatigued than usual. He had a persistent rash, especially in the diaper area, and not responding to any diaper cream. He has been drinking and urinating excessively over the past few weeks. His parents also mention that he has been losing weight despite having a normal appetite. On examination, skin is significant for scaly, greasy erythematous rash on the trunk and arms, and more clustered in the diaper area. Also, he has lymphadenopathy and hepatosplenomegaly. Skull X-ray is positive for lytic bone lesions. What is the most likely diagnosis? Seborrhea dermatitis, Langerhans cell histiocytosis, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, or neuroblastoma? Correct answer: Langerhans cell histiocytosis. The key words here: persistent seborrhea dermatitis like rash, especially in the diaper area. Signs of diabetes insipidus. The rash is scaly, greasy, erythematous rash. And also lymphadenopathy, hepatosplenomegaly, and what is more important, the most significant keyword in this case is lytic bone lesions. Langerhans cell histiocytosis is idiopathic, reactive, or neoplastic process due to the presence of bone marrow-derived Langerhans cells, for example, T cells, macrophages, and eosinophils. This may be induced by a viral infection or a defect in intracellular communication. Most common affected organs are skin and bone. Clinical presentation: seborrhea dermatitis, like skin lesions, and osteolytic bone lesions. These two manifestations are the most important in recognizing Langerhans cell histiocytosis early. Seborrhea dermatitis-like lesions, about 80%, very common. Osteolytic bone lesions, commonly seen in the skull or long bone. Other important manifestations: central diabetes insipidus with excessive thirst and urination, exophthalmos, bony defects, particularly the cranium or the skull. Osteolytic lesions of long bone can lead to spontaneous fractures. Lesions also may affect a variety of systems, for example, liver, spleen, lymph nodes. Pulmonary involvement also may occur. Acute disseminated Langerhans cell histiocytosis presents with fever, anemia, thrombocytopenia, pulmonary infiltrates, skin lesions, enlargement of lymph nodes, spleen, and liver. Confirm the diagnosis by ordering CBC, electrolytes, urine tests, CT chest, and skull X-ray. In CBC, you will see anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, hypernatremia because of diabetes insipidus, and low urine osmolarity. CT chest will show pulmonary infiltrates, and skull X-ray will show osteolytic lesions. Treatment is with chemotherapy. The main source I used to prepare this lecture is the Pediatric Board Study Guide, a last-minute review, 2024, 3rd edition. Thank you for listening.
We are excited to introduce all renewed live pediatric board review courses with Dr. Osama Naga. Join us for an engaging, high-yield learning experience designed to elevate your board preparation. Learn directly from an expert in pediatrics and get the clarity, confidence, and guidance you need to succeed. Don't miss this powerful opportunity. Your pediatric board success starts here. Our 6-month live course takes place every Sunday beginning in April, giving you more flexibility, more study time, and a steady flow of high-yield information each week. Stay on track, stay motivated, and build your knowledge all the way up to your board exam with a schedule designed for your success. Live pediatric board review lectures will be delivered via Zoom. Attend the live courses via Zoom from anywhere in the world with internet access. Course wraps up with a powerful final revision by the end of September. You'll have the opportunity to review and master all pediatric board subjects in just 10 focused, consecutive days right from the comfort of your home. It's the perfect preparation to step confidently into your October board exam. Join the hundreds of doctors who have succeeded with us. Our YouTube lectures, new online courses, and comprehensive pediatric board review book have already helped hundreds of physicians pass their board exam. Now it's your turn. Let's achieve your success together. Click on the link below the video and learn more. Register your name now and we will contact you right before the course starts. Good luck in your exam.